96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. It is a little after 11 o'clock and I'm here with Aaron Green. We are continuing a conversation that we had on the other side of the show because Aaron sent me a slew of quotes. And I said, Aaron, where you got these quotes from? He said, man, I've been listening to the Prime Minister's speech. And I said, what else did the Prime Minister said? He said, man, Cecil, these are the quotes. And I said, we're going to analyze that. I said, that one we can talk about on your show, and on the other side, we're going to talk about this, right? So this side, we're going to talk about the difference between politicking and governance and talk about the culture of doing things and government business in particular. But we just recently saw a headline, which I'm going to let Aaron read the quote, and I'm trying to get up my version of it, and where it says, the PM says company hired to collect government monies kept millions. Saying a company that the government hired kept millions. And I said, he said that inside the House Assembly? And I said, okay, Aaron, provide this quote so I can understand exactly what kind of company we hired to keep the money from us. But go ahead, Aaron. Give me that quote so I can understand what you're saying.
This is the quote that I took from the news broadcast last night. They said they were, okay, let me rephrase that. So the Prime Minister is referencing what he calls a third-party company who's collecting immigration fees on behalf of the government. And he indicates that they are sold, that only this company provides this service, right? Didn't name the company.
Wait. There's another company that the Prime Minister did not name?
Yeah. In his quotations, speaking on the floor of the House of Assembly on the news broadcast last night, what was captured by the broadcaster, he did not name the company.
So this is a habit then. This is a purpose. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But he did indicate that the company was not licensed to collect revenue or to engage in the provision of financial services.
Impossible. Someone have to be making something up because that don't make our government. And when we're talking about governance, the difference between governance and politicking, our governance would not allow such. It's impossible to collect money without licenses.
Like sometimes I don't trust myself, Scooby. Sometimes I don't trust myself.
Go ahead, Shaggy. Read it from the newspaper.
So we can read it from the Guardian.
Made no sense.
It didn't even sound correct, right?
No, it made no sense.
I'm reading from today's Guardian. Bottom fold, front page. PM says company hired to collect government money kept millions. Prime Minister Philip Davis said in the House of Assembly yesterday that a private company engaged by the Minister administration to collect immigration fees and taxes on a family island had kept millions of dollars in public monies it collected. Quotation, for reasons which remain profoundly unclear, the previous administration appointed a private company. Again, the name is here. I ain't called a name. I'll tell you privately if you want. As the sole collector of immigration fees, said Davis. Stick a pin.
Hold on.
Dear Prime Minister Davis, I want you to tell me privately, please. But I get the impression he wasn't speaking to me when he said that.
Who he was talking to in the House, addressing the Bahamian people and the parliamentarians in his cabinet.
See, he was looking across the floor, right? But he couldn't have been talking to his backbenchers who sit across the floor because the other side full up. He couldn't have been, because they are part of his team. They should have known.
And most of them in cabinet, so they should know.
Right. I mean, that's a heavy cabinet, eh? They broke down soon. Who was he talking to? And if he was talking to the opposition, why were you talking to them like that?
Remember when the press secretary said he have different intonation when he speaks?
Different tone for different people.
Different people.
Different audiences.
And he know we watching. We know we want to know the name. He know we are concerned. And he kept the name secret from...
And I just want to go to the house and tell them, dear sirs and madams, like if you think we want a comedy show, we're gonna tune into Vividly Val's new improv show coming out very soon on your local programming. If we wanted a comedy show, that's what we would do. I don't need my prime minister to tell jokes. It's not his role to provide political satire to the people. I hoping somebody can pay me to do that.
Yet he did it all the same.
Anyway, let's keep reading.
It all depends on accountability. Is this accountability and freedom of information and transparency that he is professing that this is what his government is doing? Because everything's convoluted.
Yeah.
No one calling no names. Go ahead.
Let me continue reading from the article by Candia Dames in today's Nassau Guardian. The article is titled, PM says company hired to collect government money kept millions. We continue. While he did not name the company, his speech was sent out to the media with the company's name in it. Again.
Another one.
Right. Davis said, and we're going to turn to page 6 if you're following me.
You have to break this thing up. I mean, he sent out the speech with the name in it, but he refused to say it in the house where he's protected and could call anybody name.
Isn't that odd, right? So we go on. Davis said the engagement of the company, quotation now, was contrary to the practice since the department was created, whereby fees were paid directly to the government.
Saying why I didn't go directly to the consolidated fund instead of going to the third party? That's the question. It seemed odd.
Right, let's go on. I appreciate Candia's article, right? And the legitimacy that she brings to the quotations, which I may suggest I don't bring the same legitimacy. So we're going to read from the article. What is quotation, Prime Minister? What is deeply troubling, Madam Speaker, is the fact that this company was not licensed to collect revenue or to engage in the provision of financial services. This how loose and slack this was. Prime Minister, loose and slack is not language that we expect from you in the House of Assembly.
But if it was loose and slack, the Prime Minister got to say it out loud. It seemed to be loose and slack.
As loose and slack as the presentation he is making.
But yeah, the presentation is loose and slack.
Yeah.
I ain't enjoying it at all.
No.
This loose and slackness I'm not enjoying.
Okay, the Prime Minister goes on, quotation, we cannot imagine why the administration chose to enter an agreement with a company which was not licensed to trade in the terms of the contract, close quotes. The Prime Minister continued, open quotes, to make matters much worse, the company kept the money. From the start of this contract in 2020 to when we stopped the arrangement in 2022, the company is estimated to have collected some $6.4 million. When the government approached them asking them to forward the monies collected, we were told by the CEO that they were withholding government revenue in order to, and I quote, expand their business.
Rubbish.
Close quotes.
No, you can't read no more. You got to stop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a company, we don't have no license because they say they ain't licensed to all these things, can tell the government of the Bahamas, we're not going to release the people's money. Man, we have the police on our hands so that we can lock up people on the spur of the moment.
The Attorney General's office, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the whole Ministry of National Security.
And he felt, our Prime Minister felt comfortable confessing that this company tell him he can't do nothing but it, they can hold it hostage, and he ain't lock up nobody.
Now, pause. While I was reading the quotation, right, I thought to myself, if I were a benevolent God in a government in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, right?
Nice God.
Yeah. Then I wouldn't call your name either. Because I would not want you for one moment to even suggest to people that this is some political hunt. Remember, we don't use the term witch hunt anymore because that's a slur.
It's a slur?
Yeah, because that really is when the Europeans killed out millions and millions of other European people and then called them witch to attempt to diminish it. Yeah. Attack us.
But how money do?
I think the case is plain.
It's not a case.
I think the case is plain. They're supposed to send back the money. And I think the Prime Minister may be attempting to be a benevolent God and say, listen, I have the full weight of the resources of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas available to me to come after you. Do the right thing.
That could be done in a letter. My thing is, in 2022, the government ceased and desist this company from collecting the funds.
Right.
And from 2022 to now,
Yeah.
we have yet to get any of the money. They still hold it
Right.
hostage.
And here's the thing that I am concerned about, right? Because if
And they live in the Bahamas.
right, I just, whew, there's some
And they live
text.
in the Bahamas, and they do it right in front of us, and the government's still waiting.
Hold on.
And they ain't want to call her name.
There's another quotation
Go ahead.
that I got
Go ahead. Go ahead.
from the news last night.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This company is also collecting taxes on behalf of the government in the Family Islands. In a Family Island.
Wait.
Pause. It's like the Prime Minister corrected himself, right? Like he first said Family Islands, then he paused and he said a Family Island, emphasized the
Go ahead.
and yet again keeping the money, close quotations.
Hold on, because I don't believe Bahamian people analyze these things. You said this company, who we talking about, is still collecting money? After you said this, read that again. Because it's impossible to say they still collected money.
Listen, this is what he said. What I'm going to do is when I read this, I can let you talk, and I'm going to go into Candia's article to see how she referenced the quote, if she included it at all.
Read the quote again one time before that, though.
This company is also collecting taxes on behalf of the government in the Family Islands, in a Family Island, which I think is a correction, and yet again keeping the money, close quotations, Prime Minister Davis.
See, and this is where I am concerned, and Aaron is going through the newspaper now to see what Candia deems how she interpreted and how she presented inside the newspaper. But what I understood from that is this company we have an issues with, who's holding monies away because the government has asked for the money, is still collecting monies on behalf of the government or for a family island. And again, ask for the money, and they still refraining from giving the money to us.
See how dangerous it is to allow people to, how problematic it is to allow the setting of dangerous precedents, or how dangerous it is to allow these without being challenged.
But Aaron, what you said about licenses, are these people licensed to even operate?
The quotation from the Prime Minister was that the company is not licensed to collect revenue or to engage in the provision of financial services. I'm not going to argue. Don't push this issue, Mr.
What you mean,
Newry.
don't push the issue?
Because I go into the central bank with my Madeira doubloons. I go into the central bank with my Madeira doubloons, and I am demanding that they be recognized as currency. In fact, I'm going to call it the mahogany coin. I creating a currency. And I can tell the government, cheapest you rated like equal to the sand dollar. He did rated equal to the sand dollar.
Aaron, you getting comment like it's a comedy show, just like how the House of Assembly seems to be a comedy show. Does he no laughing matter, Aaron? They ain't legitimate to operating, and we still can't get our money. And our Prime Minister's playing nice. Says, hold on, I'm just gonna talk around y'all. I ain't gonna call your name.
Mr. Newry.
I ain't gonna send the police. I ain't gonna close your business down.
We may get a letter from the Prime Minister today
Soon.
because we may have, they say, is it the gig or the jig is up? That's also a slur. I just realized that
a slur too.
the word jig, I think, is actually a slur, and we got to re-examine that
so
whole
I ain't be able to
phrase.
say nothing.
Basically, and hopefully the Prime Minister will feel the same way about this life. But yeah, maybe we are doing the government a disservice, Mr. Newry. Maybe this was a little, what they call it, bait and switch, like almost like bad cop, good cop, but the Prime Minister is the bad cop and the good cop. It's just the tone has changed.
So I ask you this. That's just going to ask you about the tune. Who is the Prime Minister speaking to? Because he cannot be talking to me, because I'm kind of sensible. Because listening to it, I am vexed. I'm vexed at it, right? So clearly he's not talking to me. He's talking to perhaps the owners
Right.
of this company.
Yeah.
And let them know that he is doing them
I'm trying to help you save face.
that's what he's doing?
Right, this is what I'm saying. Maybe
Perhaps.
he's attempting to show them, please, do the right thing.
How much millions of dollars is this again?
Well, 6.4 million was the figure
for the
quoted.
first set.
Yes.
Not the money they continue to collect.
Well, it appears. See, the Prime Minister may have misspoken. Again,
No, I promise I'm misspoken.
it seems like they was little loose like a goose. He may have and when I say misspoken,
Say I promise I'm misspoken.
not in tone or word. not in tone, intense. Not in tone, intense. When he said, this company is also collecting taxes on behalf of the government. He might have meant this company was also
Not is.
collecting. He may have, right? Like,
But then why separate it?
no, what I'm saying is the same way that he made a sort of a misstep. He said the Family Islands and corrected himself very quickly and said a Family
It
Island.
was corrected.
Right.
Yes.
He could have intended to say this company was also collecting taxes. I'm just saying it could be.
It could be.
Right. See, I want us to think like them, like the lawyers think. Right?
Do you think this may be legalese type talk?
I think it may be.
Lawyer type talk?
I think he may be very careful. He may be setting up an environment in which he can carry out the rest of his policy.
KC type talk?
Ah, there you go, Casey type talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we only go into like law school like 1 or 2 years.
Yeah,
Anyway,
like
we have a
half a
caller.
year.
Half a year. Go ahead, caller. Thank you for calling.
Yes, I was told that you guys are promoting small businesses.
Oh, that's Howard's show. And Howard comes on next, and he has a small business Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
What's your small businesses?
It's a graphic design business called Ashroad Design.
Okay then. Okay. You on the air though, so don't watch nothing. We can let you go now.
Okay, hi everyone.
Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I see we have another caller there. Let's patch that caller through. Let's see if they want a small business. Okay, they hang up. So, my thing, Aaron, I'm seeing trends. I'm seeing trends that certain names are not called in the House Assembly, even though they are protected. And in the era of transparency and openness of what this government is proclaiming, it seems as if the Bahamian people are not given information, perhaps for their protection, right? Perhaps someone is trying to protect us, right? And even though we're asking for more information, it seems as if there are two audiences. One audience is getting a particular message, and one audience is being left out in the dark. This is just me. I feel as if I'm not sure if you got any detailed information, but if pertinent information I should know, I don't know. So I'm being left out in the dark.
Yeah. In fact, there was a statement just recently by the Prime Minister, and I thought to myself, why did you wait until you went to Abaco to make the statement? Now, I'm not negating the equal and equitable participation of all outer islands in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, right? Just because the government operates like a centralized mechanism, it doesn't mean that important announcements can't be made in Family Islands. The question is, why do you make them at these types of events? I feel it's because that's the audience that you're speaking to. That this announcement of national importance really has nothing to do with us, the people. And your audience you're speaking to is already captured.
It's specific audience.
Yeah.
But even though they're talking about national issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's go to this next caller there. Producer, patch the caller through. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Turn on your radio there.
Pardon me. Quality this is talking voice along with you and Aaron.
You could say it, Bremen. Obey a woman, Green.
Okay, woman. Hey, we need justice, law, and order in this country.
Yes, sir.
But a couple of things I want to say, Aaron. You said you made the statement, these lawyers, right? Which is plural, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I would say those or the suck spirits along with the Prime Minister.
Okay.
You see? Because to do something like that to the Bahamian people, and you don't want to call their names, you might as well go and look up the UBP and put them in power, because when they left us with $6 million in the treasury. So we would have something, and they would do something for the Bahamian people. Because those people, what they're doing for us, killing us. Okay? They suck blood. They suck in all of our blood, mosquito suckers. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bernie.
Mr. Primo. I have a quote, a text here. It says the NGO, like the company receiving revenue on behalf of the government, were both engaged/hired by the government to work on its behalf. They are no longer individual vendors, but government agents. So this text is basically saying, but why isn't the name being called?
Right.
Why isn't the name being called? I don't know why the name.
Well, this
isn't
is the
being called.
question. I mean, of all of the things presented in the discussion today, I think the question that sits at the top of the mountain of what's going on here is why didn't the Prime Minister call the names of either companies?
It has to be from some legal
Right,
aspect.
that's what you presume. There must be a legal provision or mechanism contained within the terms of the contracts, right, or in
But
the
they're
law.
protected. They're protected when you speak in the House, right? No?
The Prime Minister is protected, but not necessarily the company or the actors of the company. And I don't know how that relates to terms of contracts. I'm not quite sure. And so these are all questions. Why? What are the reasons why in this situation or similar situation, a prime minister, a minister of finance, would not call the name of the companies? B, why wouldn't he call them, considering that the names are in the document from which he read,
He provided the names. He provided the names in the document,
right?
but not say it publicly.
And
in the House
the
Assembly.
broadcasters, the television broadcaster of the national station covering the story mentions the name of one of the companies.
Perhaps the Prime Minister wants media to be the one to say the name and not him. That's why he provided the name,
But
not
no,
necessarily to say, not
the
to
bucks-
attribute it to him.
The buck stops with you, sir. In the same way, I was on my heart this morning when I woke up was to write a short letter to Brave Davis to say, I may not have voted for you personally, but I definitely didn't vote for Biden and Justin Trudeau. And why were CARICOM leaders in Haiti or in Jamaica, why were they meeting about Haiti while U.S. actors were in the Bahamas at a conference talking about the way forward with Haiti? Who am I voting for? Who's leading this country and who's leading this region? In the same way, who's responsible for telling us these things? Your job is to protect us, Prime Minister, from unscrupulous actors. If you don't use the powers available to you within the law and specific provisions of acts, then what you for? What you there for?
The quote that you use saying that this company is collecting money on behalf of the government for immigration.
No, okay.
No?
So, the Prime Minister says that the company, and I'll read it here, quotation, for reasons which remain profoundly unclear, the previous administration appointed a private company. Again, the name is here. I ain't called the name. Still quoting.
Purposely saying I ain't calling it.
Yeah, that's him. I'll tell you privately if you want. As the sole collector of immigration fees, said Davis.
Let's analyze that. This company is the sole collector of immigration fees, right?
You're right.
Now, mind you, we have Sand Dollar. We have all these other companies that is conduit to Sand Dollar. You're trying to say that they couldn't pay this immigration fees via using
No.
Sand Dollar money, which is real money, and come to the. I don't understand.
It's a larger problem. I don't know what time it is, but
It's 30 minutes after.
okay.
We got time.
It's a larger problem. You telling me that one single company is collecting
Did they win that bid?
all immigration fees? We don't know if it were put out to bid. What we do know is that the Prime Minister references that this is an unusual practice of one single company.
Did they complain about this when there's an opposition?
Hold on, not just one single company, but I think a third-party company. What he actually may have said was that typically the ministry receives these funds directly and not through a third-party company. It is, but let me tell you why it's particularly concerning for me, right? This tax collection, immigration fee collection issue. I see we have a caller on the line if you want to go there first.
No, let's go to the caller and have you
yeah.
explain it. Don't lose your point though.
Yeah.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
I want to say something which you all hadn't mentioned.
Yeah.
You must always remember that at that time when this situation came up, the PLP was the opposition, so they had to co-sign in order for that money to be released. Must remember that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just asked that at the end. Weren't they the opposition? Did they make mention of this when this was happening? But then we asking, was there a bid? Did it come to the House Assembly, or this co-contracted, subcontracted, without going through Parliament?
Right. Wow.
Especially when you have no license to operate.
Yeah. But listen, we could assume that they were selected because at the time they had the capacity to provide the technical platforms necessary for the service, right? And so you say, well, we don't have time to go for a bid. In fact, we had the bidding process. It don't even make sense to go any further because on the face of it, it's obvious that this is the only company that has the capacity to handle this service. But what's concerning for me is there's great concern in the general public about the legitimacy of work permits and the work permit process. People are concerned. There are allegations that work permits are being improperly issued directly from the Department of Immigration, right? This is an allegation that is out there. It is only an allegation. What are the methods that they use to reconcile their records? How do they, what systems do they use to prevent malfeasance? And do they reconcile the financial data with the technical data to ensure that there's no malfeasance taking place? And are they able to do that if they don't actually have control over this aspect of the service?
And I can assume, only can assume, and through this process, when you're purchasing your police certificate, police record online, you had to go to the police station, have them do the search, then go someplace else. They get the receipt and they go someplace else to actually physically pay.
For it.
So I'm assuming this immigration thing that we're not even sure what they're paying for. Was it for to get visas or is it for to get passports? But anyway, they apply at the government agency and they get physically stamped. So yes, you approved. And then you take that physical stamps to this payee, and then they process it and send you back to say, yes, you have paid, and then you get registered.
I was involved in a similar process. I submitted a request or like an application for something, and on submission, not on approval, but on submission, I was required to pay a fee, and I had to go to a third party. I had to go to an outside non-government actor to make the payment and then bring the receipt back to the government agency to show proof that I paid and they could begin the process.
Question. I see the caller. The money is deposited. Let's talk about the $6 million what we know about so far. Where is that being deposited? Is that being deposited in a bank account? And if it's being deposited on a bank account, who gets that interest? Is the company that we are paying, we are actually physically paying them to collect the money, also getting interest on our money, the people's money, and also the payment?
See, let's just stick a pin. Do you all understand why it's so important to critically interrogate these issues? You could imagine there may be, we don't know, but you could imagine that a contract, your third party, you collecting fees for the government, you get paid to collect fees for the government, you charge the user a fee to use the platform, and then you think that you're allowed to keep the interest generated on the money while you're holding it in your bank account or your financial mechanism.
It's madness. And when we come from after the caller, I want you to read that part when they said that they want to establish a new business. That's why they're holding the money horse. Let's patch the caller through. Patch the caller through there, producer. Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, Ms. Green. Good morning, Mr. Newry.
Morning.
Ms. Green, if you was a judge, I would have been afraid to come before you without facts. Because you're very good at I just like to listen to the way you analyze things, be honest with you. So I was listening to the statement from Keith Bell, And I was listening to the statement in which the Prime Minister tried to use the media as a, not scapegoat, as scapegoat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, in my 58 years on this earth, and after becoming conscious, right, throughout all my life, from pre-commission inquiry, post-commission inquiry, it is apparent to me that government entities are a substrate for corruption. The elderly lady called Dwight Strong show this morning, and she mentioned the fact that a Haitian said he paid this amount for a passport. I have someone in New York who I'm trying to get the call to talk to and admit these same things. And so what happens is, because, all right, as CA mentioned something, one of you mentioned something that triggered something in my mind, with transparency. Unless you are Almighty God, all-knowing, which man is trying to do through technology, through panopticism, capital surveillance, etc. That's the only way you can know true characters of people. You guys don't know me. You hear me on the phone. You don't know what, you know what I mean? So this is the same thing with politicians and anybody, priests, anybody who is putting on a face to the public. And we know what life is based on, obfuscation and faking our way through. So when it comes to the Freedom of Information Act, right, Mr. Newry, we have to bear in mind that it would be wise for some other entity to call elections and give the government a parameter. Because what happened is, when they call elections, you realize they have the ability to obfuscate data and fudge and dredge data, and then is what you meet there. So because computer, you have to put in the information, which is data. Why should I take data as gospel when we don't hear in terms like data integrity? You understand what I'm saying, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm supposed to be a fool because I listen to some of these people talk. I mean, I hear Bell. He's a great guy. I had to deal with him one time, and some property was stolen from me by the police station. And I was given a runaround. I ran in the office, and he dealt with me professionally and quickly. So I hope these type of people ever get rid of these problems. But given the fact that what you said yesterday, I was wondering why Dwight didn't ask him about retroactively investigating fraudulent documents used to obtain legitimate documents.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then when, I don't know, Dwight juxtaposed the unskilled data labor, like the amount of the data on unskilled labor, in order to justify all of the migrants here doing all these little menial, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so even the security companies that are owned by police, this is why they're trying to juxtapose them with the forces, because most of them are owned by police. And I would like for some of the workers to call and say how they are being manipulated as far as the labor laws and the minimum wage pay, because it's ridiculous. I had a friend work for a very, very famous company, and you'd be surprised in how they treated what they paid them.
Well, remember,
give thanks.
We had the case recently where the former worker won his case before the courts. He's indicated to the courts that the employer made the employee sign a document waiving overtime pay. And then remember, Farquharson, director of Labor now, I think, Farquharson came out and said, hold on, people, I need you all to know your rights. You cannot waive overtime pay. That's if not constitutionally, it's a legally guaranteed benefit, overtime pay. Yeah.
I have a text here because I want to read that thing again. Yeah. Good morning. Do you know that the Ministry of Finance has contracted a private company to assist in collecting real property taxes? I do not know that. So is that something?
Well, they said they would.
So it's the same thing again?
Well, I just say, Department of Inland Revenue, they didn't hide it. They've announced it that they, if not were doing it, that they are considering hiring third-party contractors to help collect revenue.
Similar to what this immigration thing is then.
Yeah.
So it's not confusing like what suggested by the Prime Minister that it found it strange. It's like a norm.
Well, I think it may be terms presented by the third-party company as legitimate that may be confusing the Prime Minister, right? But let me read from Candia. We go on. When the government approached them, this is a quote from Prime Minister Davis, when the government approached them asking them to forward the monies collected, we were told by the CEO that they were withholding government revenue in order to, and I quote, expand their business.
I want you to pause there, Bam, because I want you to read that again.
Yeah, but there's more to follow
but
it.
That is important, though. How do you tell the Prime Minister of a country that? That's what I want you to analyze. Then you go back on. Read it again for me. And so you can understand, how do you tell the Prime Minister of a country that?
But I don't think they said that to the Prime Minister.
But they said it to them.
They said it to somebody. They may have said it to the Minister of Finance, but they didn't say it not to my Prime Minister.
I understand.
I got you. When the government approached them asking them to forward the monies collected, we were told by the CEO that they were withholding government revenue in order to, and I quote, expand their business. He goes on, I'm sure I don't need to remind honorable members that this is a wholly improper use of government funds. The Prime Minister charged. It doesn't end there. He said the company was also collecting taxes on behalf of the government on a family island. But I want to read from this point. I want to go further down in the article. The Prime Minister said the matter remains under investigation. Quote, but I can report that after discussions with the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the company has agreed to forward the revenue collected to the government. He said, adding that as of yesterday, some of the money,
not all,
had been received.
So they have all the money stored, but they said they ain't transferring all. They only can transfer some.
Well, remember, they say they're withholding it to expand it, but no, remember the Prime Minister said in the House of Assembly that they said, right?
So they only transfer some.
Stick a pin, because I want to finish the quote, but hold on.
But some.
It leads us closer possibly to the question of why this tone. Why did he take this tone in the House, right? Because maybe he knew that they were compliant, finally, that they had begun the process of returning the money to the government. But he wanted them to know, don't think because you send me $5 out of $175 million mean you're forgiven. That I still have the power to name you and shame you.
We can't freeze
I'm
assets.
Listen, we have a whole financial investigative unit, the FIU. They can freeze assets.
And we sell for some of our money.
No, we could get all.
But we can get all, we get some of it.
No, he said as of day before yesterday.
Yeah.
In the article, he says as of yesterday, we received
get
some of it.
Not all, though.
Not all yet.
That's my point.
But maybe that's why we have this statement in the House. It's very, very interesting. But hold on, I think this is important as well. The Prime Minister did not table any documents in support of his statements in Parliament, something opposition leader Michael Pintard took exception to. And so I just want to say to the public, that's why we have taken the tone that we have taken in this conversation, right? Because the question, I think, of all of the questions presented, the one that's of most importance right now, or import right now, is given the authority that the Prime Minister has, the privileges and protections he has in the House of Assembly,
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
and Minister of Finance, and that the information reference has already been published in a document by said minister, why is it that the Prime Minister didn't call the company's name, and why is it that he made the point to tell whoever he was talking to that he, quote, I ain't called the name, close quote.
And especially a entity that doesn't have legal authority to even collect the money.
Right. So this is the next part. What can you say? What can you assist them to save face with? Do you have the authority to ignore the provisions of law that would demand
It seems so.
an inquiry or an arrest or a charge be laid?
But it says under investigation.
Right. And that's why I wanted to read that part.
And it also seems as if the investigation prompted them to send some of the money. That without the investigation, without the police visited them, hey, by the way, this is the police.
Right.
That the money wasn't coming at all.
Right.
And that we must be grateful for getting some. Did they actually say how much money did they give?
No.
So $6 million we know they have.
At minimum of.
At minimum. And we don't know how much they actually sent. So they could have sent like $10, $20.
That's what I was
over exaggerating. Here, hold this.
Yeah.
Hold this $100,000, but there's $6 million.
Yeah.
There's $5.
Because I'm about to tell these people, look here, y'all give the Honorable Minister Larota, responsible for NIB,
Yeah.
y'all give him whatever resources he need, because if my left finger get too jumpy, I may not sign a NIB check ever again. Y'all give the people the resources they need, and that resource may be the authority, right?
They have
That-
the authority. They have inspectors. You call police, shut their business down. But then again, we thought we could do it with this business, and clearly that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be like different tones, different types of authorities.
That tone thing again.
Yeah. So all of this is fascinating,
Yeah, fascinating. It's insulting, man.
but the biggest questions are: how is a company that is not licensed to collect revenue nor to provide financial services been awarded a contract to be the sole
That's A.
provider of the service of collecting immigration fees?
That's A. What would B?
that you would look my prime minister, a representative of me, in the face and tell him that you're going to hold the money to expand your business.
That's B. This more. See, they still collecting the money.
We don't know.
No, man. I taking it as the quote.
Okay, hold on.
According to the quote, they still collecting the money.
No.
And I'm going to go
Now,
ahead. Read that
pause.
quote again. Read the quote again.
I am certain.
You certain?
I am certain.
You certain?
I am certain I heard the prime minister say this company is also collecting.
Mm-hmm.
Candia's
also.
No, I heard is. Candia's article says he said the company was also collecting taxes on behalf of the government on a family island and yet again keeping the money.
Okay.
Now, that's not a quote, right? And so there's still not sufficient clarity right there, Mr. Newry. We don't know if they are still collecting. I can have a big problem. That's like, that's like when you send your grandson out with the money to buy the church wine
Have change.
and bring back the change and the wine, and he come back without all the wine and none of the change, and then you're going to tell me I must send him back out with my church money? I love your grandson, Miss Sue, but no.
This is another question I have.
Yeah.
Can we assume that we are paying these, or we paid this company to collect the money? The money for immigration.
But they're not collecting it for free.
Right? And the idea that they've done their duty, they've collected the money, right, from 2022. They have it on whatever storage facility, whatever bank account.
Escrow or whatever.
Whatever it is, right? Collecting whatever interest on it. And we demand payment, say, okay, you collected, we already pay you.
Yeah.
Can we have our money now? And they can say outright, not right now. We holding this longer.
I don't understand that. But more importantly, why aren't these things easily verifiable by the terms of a contract or an agreement? It should not be a question. What I should have heard from the Prime Minister today was, or in this article and last night, was contrary to the terms of the contractual agreement. Are these agreements
Clear statements.
and clear, B, sufficiently fleshed out to cover all of the contingencies?
Did they table any agreement to say, well, this is the agreement?
Well, like you said, this is why I wanted to read that. The Prime Minister did not table any documents in support of his statements in Parliament, something Opposition Leader Michael Pintard took exception to,
So the opposition is concerned.
as well as us.
But we got to analyze that some more. We got to read that part again. But we're going to take a short break. This has been Guardian Radio with the AM, and we're analyzing what the Prime Minister is talking about in the House of Assembly. He's made some statements, and it seems to be a culture or a habit not calling names. And we're trying to find out why. Anyway, we'll be right back.
Get your Carifta tickets. The 58th Carifta Games is coming. April 7th to April 10th. Tickets are on sale now. Online at Carifta50.com or at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium, Western Grand Entrance. For more details, email tickets at Carifta50.com or call 605-4051.
Wait, you know what going down tomorrow?
No, babe, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school? He could do Junior in.
For what?
Wait, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know, Junior don't bark down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Penn. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody. I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Wait, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, him and these boys coming for me next.
Alright, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how did I wait?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info? And when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the calls go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and they can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you said.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio in the AM with C.A. Newry. And of course, I have Aaron Green with me. And we are going over the Prime Minister of the Bahamas' contribution in the Honorable House of Assembly. We're talking about transparency. We're talking about openness. We're talking about government business. We're talking about the culture of doing things. We're talking about the difference between politicking and good governance. And the Prime Minister made some statements where he did not call the name of two businesses that is engaged of doing government business, right? And I want to ask Aaron this. Is there a need for the press secretary? Is there a need for the press secretary to call a press conference and explain what the Prime Minister intended? Because this intonation I do not understand nor appreciate, and clearly the press secretary needs to explain this to me. What do you say? What I meant to have said was what the Prime Minister had intended to say was, right? There's a need for that.
Yeah. Good morning, Bahamas. I don't know if that's going to bring any clarity to the situation.
No. Watch this clarify things. Anytime he speaks, I understand.
Okay. You understand more better what's happening.
But because maybe not better. Maybe not better, but I understand.
Because my expectation is betterer.
Better.
But it typically ends up bitterer. And I don't know if bringing this to that space will bring more clarity to the situation.
You don't believe our press secretary could explain this better?
No, I don't know. I don't think...
You just say a code like that? Just no?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think only the Prime Minister and people in cabinet know why he took the tone that he did.
No, but the press secretary explained the tone. We didn't know there was different tones until the press secretary to tell us that there's be different tones.
Oh, right, that he was saying the same thing. We just didn't understand it because
yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Maybe it'll work.
So I am calling now for the press secretary to come and explain what tone this is.
I could be honest with you. I want minister to come and explain it. And not just because the Prime Minister...
He gave the contract.
Says in these statements, quote, several, suggests that this is the work of the former administration.
Good point.
I want Minister to come in and explain it because he said I would have beaten Christie by more than 300 votes in Centerville. He obviously understands Obeah. And I want to know if he could bring clarity to the situation.
I don't pay attention to foolishness. That's how I decided for the foolishness.
But I think that we do need to have the former Prime Minister, maybe before the PAC, attempt to explain the details of the contract, or even better, the context within which the contract was drawn up and approved.
So you think this is a PAC type of issue that should be addressed?
Yeah. See,
I call the former leader of the opposition up and say, explain this contract because it makes no sense. How did they get in the first place?
Because
without no licenses and whatever.
The former Prime Minister is the first person I saw boldly state that it's the Constitution that's in the way of governance. You know?
The audacity.
Right. Or the ignorance. Right? Don't call it audacity. Call it ignorance. And not in a demeaning way.
Calling the former Prime Minister ignorant?
Yes, of the law.
Of the law.
And I think it's fair to say that. And it takes us back to the question. You remember all these people saying we tired of lawyers as prime ministers. Until you get a prime minister that looks you in the face through the ZNS camera and tells you, we may have to put the Constitution aside to govern you better.
Doctor say that.
Yeah.
Doctor, didn't make no sense. Let's go to the caller quickly. Oh, the caller gone. So, see, I see the leader of the opposition is asking the government to table documents to support.
Yeah.
Mind you, one would assume that would have been readily available then. So, yeah, you ask them table it here. See it there. These are the information so they can analyze. But so now we have another delay, right? I'm not sure if the Prime Minister will have a table supporting documents.
Right, because the PAC can only investigate reports that have been tabled in the House, right?
So something to that effect.
Yeah, there's some very strict rules about it. I see we have another caller there, and then I got a text here. You want me to get the text first?
Let's get the caller first.
Okay.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Producer, pass the caller there through, please. Go ahead there, caller. Can you hear me? Caller going once. Okay, then you read that text then.
All right. The text says, I am disappointed in the PM. Yes, the information is shocking, but his role as the chief executive is to hold people to account for government money.
But isn't the Prime Minister holding them in account? We just seen calling their names.
Well,
Like we didn't know about this until he brought it up. But just that we just don't know who he is holding in an account.
yeah, which I think is equally as important as the holding to account part.
Yeah.
And the question is, if you're unwilling to call their name, how willing are you to engage the mechanisms necessary
To correct these issues.
to bring them, A, to bring them to account, B, to correct them and C, ensure they never happen again.
Wow. I think we expect too much of our government.
Say what?
I think we expect too much from our government.
Not given the amount of money we pay them. I am okay with an assessment, right? Like I am okay with reassessing my expectations. I expect too much from them, but to balance that, I'm going to need a reduction in salaries
They ain't
and
getting paid.
wages.
They ain't getting much money now. They're asking for a
They're
raise.
getting far more than they are producing.
They're asking for a raise now. Right? So
They already raised my temperature. I don't. As far as I'm concerned, they probably raising sea levels too. Yeah, they're getting paid too much money. I don't have a problem with acknowledging. Like, see, when it's been the Prime Minister said we're doing all that we could do on immigration. Fred Mitchell
said the same thing.
Keith Bell
said the same thing.
What?
We are doing all we can do.
No, first of all, the answer to that question is no.
No?
No, you're not doing all that you could do. Second of all, I can accept that answer. If you can accept, well, then we obviously paying you too much money for what you could do.
They need a raise, man.
No, they don't need a raise.
No?
We're not even going to argue that. They don't need a raise. They need to produce more.
We need to produce more?
Yeah. They need to produce more. They need to not just produce more, they need to produce more outside of the political system. They gain a lot. They achieve a lot. It appears as if it's only for the sake of politics and not for governance.
Let me bait you then, Aaron. What do you believe it's the intent of the Prime Minister's contribution? These two contributions are separate. The one with the NGO and the one when this third company hired for immigration issues. What is the Prime Minister's intent for his contribution?
I think his attempt was to try and figure out how to raise the subject in an attempt to embarrass the FNM without, right? So, like, he raised the subject to get into some politics, but attempted to do it in a way that did not jeopardize the governance side of it, right? So I can raise this, we got key, and look what y'all did. Y'all hired it. Look, you hired a company and they ain't even have a license. Key, look at y'all. But not actually take any outrageous, or is another word, but steps that would jeopardize the legal proceedings, right? And I think the most damning thing of it is their refusal to do what they know they ought to do when they know they ought to do it, which is keep separate always politics and governance.
So you believe the exercise that happened yesterday was all politics and not necessarily governance?
Yeah. And I think that's signaled by the fact that what the article Candia wrote said the Prime Minister did not table any documents in support of his statements in Parliament, right? Because, and then the question is, would the PAC have access to the documents if they were tabled?
Copies would have been issued out that as he speak on it, that they could analyze.
The speech may have been public or disseminated to the media and to members of the opposition, but that doesn't necessarily mean supporting documents, right? Any documents to support the statements.
And I see we have another caller there, but do you think the Prime Minister have a duty of care to bring supporting documents today, since the House Assembly meeting today, to say, okay, you asked for it yesterday, here they are?
I think he had a duty of care to bring it yesterday.
We on today now, though.
Yeah, he better be in the back trunk, buddy.
Better be. But anyway, let's go to the caller. Caller, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Miss Green, I was thinking the same thing you said when Mr. Newry asked you that question as to the reasoning for him bringing that up. I feel like these are information that he had from that time, and it's like every now and again just to make sure that the public remember the missteps or the mistakes or the what seem to be bad ideas done by the Linus administration is kept thought on the burner. Every now and again, he brings something out.
Yes.
Like someone said earlier.
But ma'am, just as we close the show, you can't tease hungry people with the idea of food on the back burner, man.
Thank you very much for calling. This has been Guardian Radio with AM, and we just analyzing what the Prime Minister either trying to say, or did say.
Or didn't say.
Or didn't say. Different intonations. That's what it is. Different audiences. Have a wonderful day.